Hey there guys, welcome back to another Legally Armed America video. I'm of course Paul Glasgow here, the one and only Truth Pimp, and I know that hurts a couple of feelings out there. So if you can't deal with my humor, my sarcasm, this is not the place to be because it's going to come out somehow anyway. Some of you are complaining because of the fun that I include in my videos. Some of you, the feelings are hurt whenever I use certain words and all that. This ain't the place for everybody. Just being honest. If anything ruffles your feathers, nothing you suggest is going to change how I do my videos. So unsubscribe and don't watch anymore. Just being straight with you guys, not changing anything. Surely everyone has heard about the assassination attempts and successful assassination in the state of Minnesota. Very strange times. I thought today's headlines would honestly be dominated by the No Kings rallies. That's totally not grassroots and totally funded at certainly high levels of NGOs and crooked people out there. But no, we've got a Democrat, come to find out, who's shooting their own people. And they seem to be the ones who are always doing this kind of stuff. Democrat Representative Melissa Hortman voted with Republicans to cut health care for adult illegal aliens just days before being assassinated by a shooter with No Kings flyers in his vehicle. In a really ironic twist, because this killer is actually an associate of Governor Walz. Governor Tim Walz announced Saturday morning that State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband did not survive a 2 a.m. attack at their home on Saturday by a suspect wearing what appeared to be a police uniform. The suspect also went to the house of State Senator John Hortman, shooting him and his wife. Hortman and his wife are alive right now, out of surgery. Both were injured in the shooting. Now the weirdness is that these people are so sold on this crazy, wacko, far-left, indoctrinated ideology that they have, that if somebody, even on their side, and somebody who has been loyal to them, if they veer ever so slightly, they get mad and they want to take you out. Just a few days ago, as you just saw, Hortman voted in favor of a bill to not give illegal aliens full health care benefits. Now, before I show you this next clip, I want you to understand that, remember, Minnesota is kind of like mini Somalia. Somalians are taking over. The Muslims, the radical Muslims are taking over that state, and more specifically, they're coming from Somalia. Ilhan Omar with her bald head. So these folks up there are being controlled by an element that has been allowed in this country. Remember, illegal aliens are not just these Mexicans, Guatemalans, Hondurans that are coming in over the southern border. We've certainly got radical Muslims coming in. We've got Chinese citizens coming in who are loyal to the CCP. We've got bad actors coming in everywhere. And this is one thing that the Democrats have long held and wanted to do, was to water down and pollute the healthcare system and give it to illegal aliens. Because then once you have everybody getting the free cheese, at some point they're still going to push, and in some cases have successfully gotten, the ability to not check IDs to see if somebody is a citizen of the United States in order to vote in our elections. So that's ultimately what they're going for. Give the rat enough free cheese and they will vote blindly for every single thing you tell them they have to vote for. This killer, this assassin, was not having Miss Hortman voting for something that would strip illegal aliens of these full healthcare benefits. I want to point something out in this clip before I show it to you. Notice the fear in her voice. Oddly enough, as much as they fear being unelected, voted out, I'm not so sure that's what she's scared of. And I think, ironically, maybe not so ironically, 3-4 days later, she was assassinated after voting with Republicans to not allow health care for, I gotta say it again, illegal aliens. People who are not citizens of the United States. She rightly voted to not allow them to have free health care benefits. Again, note the fear in her voice and in her eyes.
I know that people will be hurt by that vote, and I'm We worked very hard to try to get a budget deal that wouldn't include that provision.
DFL Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman emotional following the House's adjournment from a special session Monday. Hortman was the lone DFL lawmaker to cast a vote to cut Minnesota Care access for undocumented immigrants. It's a move she made with a heavy heart.
I did what leaders do. I stepped up and I got the job done for the people of Minnesota.
The bill was deeply unpopular with members of the DFL caucus. Members have repeatedly expressed frustration that the bill was part of a compromise, one that would ensure the necessary GOP votes to pass the rest of the state budget.
We are tremendously disappointed and gut-wrenched at this decision, at this compromise that compromises our communities that are most vulnerable.
Hortman knows she let down her own caucus members with the vote.
They're right to be mad at me. I think some of them are pretty angry. I think that their job was to make folks who voted for that bill feel like crap, and I think that they succeeded.
So the killer, right? Dr. Vance Bolter, EDD. Okay, EDD, just so you guys know, that is not a medical doctor. It is a doctor of education. It's a terminal degree focused essentially on education, leadership, administration, curriculum development, held by educators, pretty much school principals, schools administrators, academic researchers. It emphasizes practical application in education rather than clinical type practices. So he's basically a Dr. Jill Biden type of doctor, right? Not a real doctor. But the guy's a nut job. He was not happy that this lady voted against the free cheese that he wanted to be out there. Now, this guy has a long history of working with NGOs and actually working outside the countries with NGOs in other countries. Sounds like he was part of a money laundering group, CEO here, claiming to be, anyway, of a company called Red Lion Group. And he worked with the governor of Congo. And as you know, Congo, just like most of those countries over there, are super duper corrupt. So you know that there was NGO money going straight into this man's pocket. And whenever the NGO money started getting cut off, that probably upset him a little bit. In fact, he was looking for a job in some cases. Even the Data Republican, who is somebody I follow on X, stated he met with Congolese ambassador in 2018 as a representative for Marathon Petroleum Group. Not trying to get too far off into the weeds on tangents here, but remember, Marathon is the gas station, fueling station for Walmart. Remember how Walmart, we've been talking about the fact that Christie Walmart is helping fund some of these No Kings rallies. Again, totally not grassroots. And I find it a little ironic that this guy actually had some contact with the Walmart organization as well. Again, probably totally coincidence, right? And I'm being serious. I'm not being sarcastic here. Probably a coincidence. It just, when these coincidences continue to pop up, you start taking score and you realize they're popping up a lot. At some point, it stops being a coincidence. So we'll see how this plays out. But you see here on the website, his Red Lion Group states that the Red Lion Group's mission is to deliver superior results in every company we create, control risks, conduct ourselves with the highest integrity, and create good jobs for local people. That's got Democrat written all over it, and it's certainly got NGO grant money written all over it as well. Now, I want to point out again that this guy was a pal of Governor Tim Walz in Minnesota. This is a notice of appointment for Vance Bolter. He was appointed business member of the governor's Workforce Development Board in 2019, expired in 2023. He was actually one of Walz's boys. Now, I think it's important to point out also that in many cases, I think we can agree that spouses normally have the same political leanings. Not always, I did not say always, normally have the same political leanings. Because if you're really balls deep into politics like this guy was, palling up with Tim Walz, probably a little bit hard for him to be able to stomach somebody that might be on the right or even center, because this guy clearly was far left. But his wife, also Jennifer Bolter, was an intern for Representative Tim Walz when he was a representative in Minnesota back in 2010. So the Bolter family clearly had ties to Walz as far back when he was a representative. Now, I'm certainly not blaming Jennifer Bolter, the wife, or I think the ex-wife. I don't know if they're married anymore. Certainly not blaming her for his sins, for his assassinations. I'm not that kind of person that will associate somebody and say, oh, because you know that person or married to him or whatever, you have to be guilty too for what they've done. No, I don't believe that way. My point is, obviously, this is a left-leaning family and had deep ties to the current governor, former representative in the state of Minnesota. I say that because the left immediately came out. Our boy Brian Stelter, he immediately came out to try to push this as some kind of far-right thing. He said, and at all points in the same direction, as he forwarded this message that stated, in the last week, Marines were deployed in an American city. The president has called for a governor to be arrested, and the Speaker of the House has called for that governor to be tarred and feathered. A senator has been pinned and handcuffed, and 2 state legislators, and he goes on to talk about them being shot. So clearly, they were trying to immediately jump to the conclusion, just like they do whenever there's some kind of a shooting of some sort. They immediately jump to conclusions, and they're almost always wrong. This guy's sitting here, he's going to have to put a retraction out, which, I mean, isn't this guy like a product of CNN? So I doubt you'll get any retraction because they never do when they are wrong, which is often. I think they just get tired of saying we screwed up, and they said, you know what, we're just not going to say it anymore because we screw up so much. But obviously this guy deserves and needs to retract his statement, but again, we'll never see that. One thing I do want to point out, though, and this is not a correlation type thing, when you look at the picture of the No Kings thing, I'm going to have to say this. Everybody is saying these are pictures of No King flyers for the protest / opposition, if you will. That's a highly funded organization function at very, very high levels. They're paying for all this. Again, not grassroots. Democrats don't normally do anything grassroots. You have to either pay them or you have to give them something because they always want something in return because their ideals are very flimsy and they don't really have any strong convictions. So if there's not money or something to gain in it, they're usually not going to take part in it. But when I look at the pictures of the No Kings flyers, and this was a post by the Minnesota State Patrol that stated, given the targeted shootings of state lawmakers overnight, we are asking public to not attend today's planned demonstrations across Minnesota out of abundance of caution. Look at the flyers there, right? Okay, that looks like probably what, 30, 40, 50 printouts of the exact same thing, a handwritten note that says No Kings. The reason why I have to doubt this, and I'm not saying that this guy that shot the Minnesota politician, I'm not saying that he didn't support the fake No Kings protests. I'm not stating that at all. I do believe he fully supported it. My point is, it's a heavily funded operation. And just like all these left-leaning, heavily funded operations, they always have nicely printed signs, t-shirts, bumper stickers. All that stuff is all well produced. This is a handwritten note that says No Kings in it. That's it. Nothing else. It doesn't say all the cushy stuff about we need to fight tyrants and this isn't what the country was built on. Of course, they want to always say this is a democracy. Trump's hurting our democracy. Nothing on there. Just a handwritten note that says No Kings. That smells of a plant to me. Again, not suggesting the guy didn't believe in that movement or that cause, but this just looks very suspect to me. To have a handwritten note like this, it's almost as if they're wanting you to draw that conclusion, which makes me pump the brakes a little bit and go, maybe this is not what we think it is. Obviously, I think they want to frame, let me tell you what my thought process is. I think that this could have been planted by somebody to try to make it look like it was planted. Because this is so unprofessionally done. And again, most of us know this is not how the Soros organizations and the heavily funded NGOs operate. They have very nicely printed stuff. So this almost makes it look like they're trying to get you to jump to the conclusion that somebody on the right must be involved, because there's no way anybody on the left would have promoted something with these little flimsy handwritten signs like this. So it looks like a plant to make you think it was somebody from the right that planted that. I know that's some tinfoil hat stuff, but this just doesn't smell right to me. Something seems afoot right here. Regardless, I don't think that we've seen the end of everything. It's 3 o'clock my time right now. I know you're watching the video a little bit later in the day on a Saturday. I think once dark gets here, we might see some fireworks. And I don't mean that literally, I mean figuratively. I think things are going to get a little squirrely as the night comes. That's whenever these bad elements usually, do something, do whatever, start burning stuff. So I think the flimsiness of their little movement today that everybody laughed at is probably going to reveal itself later on tonight with a little bit more serious stuff. Guys, I appreciate you hanging out with me this past week. We literally just flew in today from Hawaii behind enemy lines. Yes, I had a 3.5-inch pocket knife over there as my protection. I have a video that I'm going to show you guys tomorrow of a crime that I videoed while I was over there. That's right. I watched somebody be attacked, somebody get robbed, essentially assaulted, and someone try to steal a bicycle, a purse, and go through their stuff. I got it all on video. In fact, the guy tried to run into me with his bicycle. I wasn't having it because I had my 3.5-inch pocket knife in my pocket. But that kind of stuff pisses me off. So wait till tomorrow when you see the video, and I'm going to give you a full rundown of everything. But I appreciate you guys' patience with me over the last week. While I was in Hawaii, I know my videos were not the greatest quality, although the scenery was pretty awesome. And I appreciate you guys being tolerant of me to pump the brakes and take a little bit of time off and enjoy myself with my wife. I appreciate that, guys. Again, shout out to my friends over at AOR for hanging out with me over there, and certainly a big hat tip to my in-laws for watching our son while we were over there. But happy to be home and certainly glad to see my son today. Gave him a big fat hug and a big old kiss, and was good to see the young man again. So see you guys. I will have a cool video for you tomorrow, so you definitely want to see that eyewitness stuff.